Right away, and
We're good?
That's what all these
all
codes
clear,
are
yeah.
out here now, because we
All right.
can
I
block
saw
all the
that.
areas
That's
off
too
there.
bad. Right.
We will call the council meeting to order.
No, that's too bad.
Roll.
Pledge allegiance.
Oh, I'm sorry, the pledge first. I was thinking roll call.
You're back in the United States.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
All right, Mayor O'Connor.
Here.
Councilor Morissette.
Here.
Sorry, Wakefield.
Here.
As I go around the room here. Hold on, sorry. I'm sorry, Knutson.
Here.
Hall. Councilor Hall. Am I going out of order? I don't know. Bruck.
Here.
And Kennedy.
Here.
There we go. Sorry about that.
All right, so first thing we have is comments from citizens present. This is your opportunity to comment on anything that is not on the agenda tonight. It's for residents of the city of Hudson. If you are here to make a comment, if you would please come up to the podium, identify yourself and your address, and make your comments. Please try not to, please try to be brief, and please try not to repeat comments that have been made by previous speakers. So, does anybody have a comment? Any comments? Any comments? Any comments? Hearing none, we'll close that portion of the agenda. Consent.
Approve the meeting minutes from the February 6, 2023 regular council meeting. Approve claims in the amount of $12,520,014.83. Approve the memorial application submitted by Casey Nelson. Approve the St. Croix Rowing Club lease agreement. Approve a conditional use permit, one-year follow-up review for 708 offices, 708 2nd Street, Saranda. Approve Fit Real Estate Memorial Day event. Approve police training concealed carry course. Approve the appointment of Eric Fredrickson to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Approve the base bid from Hudson, Inc. in the amount of $1,287,036.39 for the 3rd Street Hill Improvement Project. Improve the bid from Allied Blacktop Company in the amount of $784,719.60 for the 2023 street maintenance program. Approve the final development plans for Hudson Center Lot 7, Hudson Center Holdings LLC, and approve the construction management and risk services proposal for the new public works facility from Market and Johnson.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and second to approve consent agenda. Roll call.
Oh, God, you do this again. I'll go this side this time. How's that? I don't know which way she ever goes. I don't pay. Councilmember Hall.
Yes.
Bruck.
Yes.
Kennedy.
Yes.
Morissette.
Yes.
Wakefield.
Yes.
And Knutson.
Yes.
All right. That was much smoother.
Excellent. Motion's approved. Consent agenda is approved. New business, approval of ordinance number 05-23, amending the city code related to short-term rental licenses.
So as I mentioned in the memo for this is basically just based on, we don't expect getting many of these, but it's a process for us to go through. Obviously, we have the city attorney prepare for it. The council has to review the information provided. Obviously, there's more than one party involved. So we just want to clarify for the future, if we get more of these, that we want it to be clear to all the parties that you have to attend the hearings when they happen, and that if one of the parties does not attend, then that party would be responsible for costs associated with the complaint. I think last time when we had one, it was fairly expensive, and also I think it makes it difficult for the council to kind of render fair judgment when only one of the parties may be in attendance. So it's just an amendment related to our costs, related to processing one of these, and just mostly it's the incentive to make sure that both parties show up when we have a hearing like this. Hopefully we don't have very many of them, but in case we do.
Move to approve.
And I'll second that.
Oh, this is an ordinance.
Yeah.
Move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion and second to suspend the rules. Roll call.
Councilmember Hall.
Yes.
Bruck.
Yes.
Kennedy.
Yes.
Morissette.
Yes.
Wakefield.
Yes.
And Knutson.
No.
I was hoping I had a chance to speak earlier, but
All right,
there's my
so
vote.
motion's approved, rules are suspended.
Move to approve ordinance number 5-23.
Doesn't have to be unanimous for suspend, okay.
All right, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Okay, now discussion. Thank you. Well, we did have one case where we handled a complaint. And looking back on that night, I do wish several things were different about how it was handled, but I don't want to address my comments just to that situation. I think at the time, Councilmember Brooke actually mentioned that maybe we should wait and discuss it at another meeting, so we had a little more time to reflect. Councilmember Morissette mentioned that we had only gotten actually the packet of information that day. The legal packet came to us that morning with the complaint and so on, so we didn't have a lot of time to digest it. And it did feel like we were making a fairly official rendering decision. And as I look at the ordinance, the reason I'm saying no tonight, or wanting to vote no, is I think maybe we should step back and look at that whole complaint process and what the consequences are of a complaint. So I don't object necessarily to some modification, but I don't know that this is the only modification. As I studied it a little bit more, and I know we did do some updates last June that were brought forward, so I'm probably guilty of not understanding this ordinance for the short-term rental as much as I should. But as I look at it now, it feels sort of like our decision was nothing, no judgment, or the death penalty, so to speak. That business would be completely losing their right to continue as a short-term rental. And it seems to me that having more of a progressive discipline action, a penalty note in their records, followed by a fine, followed by a suspension, a fine, suspension, and then revocation might be a step to take. I do think that there are certain things in our community standards or things we operate by where we do ask people to come forward and sign a complaint. We dealt with that with our ethics commission, or excuse me, our ethics ordinance or whatever we were putting in place, the policy that we approved recently, that someone had to put their name on it and come forward. And this does require someone to do so, to come forward, and that's not an easy thing to do.
Right.
And if the only consequence to your complaining is that person completely loses their right to operate as a business there, that seems harsh. And I think it might make it more difficult. I do think that the particular party that complained last fall probably didn't understand everything clearly. They did write a letter to us stating as much. Is that their responsibility to understand? I'm sure that it was their responsibility to know that being here present was appropriate that night. But at any rate, I just feel like maybe we could revisit that whole concept of how to handle complaints and what sort of consequences there could be. I think in this situation, again, I don't want to just address what we did last fall, but these are two Hudson residents that had an issue. And there certainly could come a time in the future, if you follow this on a national basis, places that are attractive and people want to go and visit and vacation, it can become quite a hot topic, whether short-term rentals are even allowed. Certain neighborhoods are trying to rally against them because of the impact on the neighborhood. So we do have to be sensitive to that, because the time could come when it might be an owner or operator that isn't truly a part of the Hudson community. So anyway, that is the basis for my saying no tonight. So just wanted to clarify that. Thanks for listening.
Excuse me, Joy. So you would want to add to this one, or you're okay with this, but look at it later? Because that's why we do first reading, second readings of ordinance changes.
Well, and
So if that's what we.
thank you, Randy, because that is something that I'm not clear on completely, so you guys can school me on that. If we move to suspend the rules, do we sometimes just vote it through in one evening, or does it come back another time?
If you
I don't
suspend
know.
the rules, usually it just goes through.
It just goes through,
Yeah.
sure. So,
I guess at that point, I would ask if Joyce would rescind the
I'll rescind my motion then, and so that we can,
move to first reading.
Well, it's already been approved.
Yeah, it's
The
already-
motion was approved.
right.
So, but let me just speak to the.
no, I can pull my motion to approve this
Oh, yes, yeah.
Sure.
ordinance.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just speak, though, to what we're
trying to do just with this particular amendment. And let me also say that short-term rental regulation across the country is a hot topic, right? With the explosion of VRBO and Airbnb and all these other the rental services that are out there. So, you know, I view short-term rental ordinances as living ordinances that need to probably be reviewed on a regular basis in light of what we're seeing in the community and the challenges. The only thing we're trying to accomplish here with this proposed red line is assessing costs if a person doesn't show up. So if you are a complainant, but you don't appear at the hearing before the council, we want you to appear, and we want you to speak on behalf of the complaint. And so we want to provide some reason for you to appear, which is costs only if you don't appear. And by the same token, if you are a property owner that receives a complaint against your property, we want you to appear to talk to the council about the condition of your and the operation of your particular property. I agree completely with the structure and the various options that the council may have for remediating or addressing concerns. And I think we should probably look at that, because there are options for modifications of conditions. You know, for example, which really isn't addressed in your ordinance. Your ordinance right now really just speaks to, if there's a complaint, then there's the opportunity for revocation, as opposed to if there's a complaint, there's an opportunity for the review and modification of conditions, or, you know, perhaps a probationary status, or perhaps a fine or whatnot. So I do think there are some other intermediate things that we can do, that we can outline as options for the council when a complaint is filed. We weren't trying to get at any of that in this revision. This was just trying to deal with a scenario and a circumstance where one of the two parties doesn't appear, because frankly, when there are concerns between residents of the community, we'd like them to appear so that they can both talk to the council. But if the council wants to press pause on this to look at the rest of the ordinance as well, you know, that certainly there's an opportunity to do that now, and we can bring back additional revisions if that's the interim step you'd like us to take.
It'd be cheaper for billable hours to you if we do it pause and then add to her concerns and added that to it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, frankly, you're probably going to do it either way. You know, you're gonna look at council options, whether you adopt these revisions now and kind of do it piecemeal as we've done it, or whether you take a more comprehensive approach and really kind of think of where you've been and what you want to accomplish with this ordinance. So, you know, if you look at it and from a policy perspective decide that it's important to adopt this revision now, you can certainly do that. Or if from a policy approach you look at it and say, yeah, maybe we should look at the whole thing based on where we've been, you know, that's a fine option as well.
I appreciate the suggestion and find a lot of merit to that. My one request, if we decide to move forward in that direction, I know last year we were well into the short-term rental season before we actually had this policy. So I would ask that this would be a priority that we have ready to go, and definitely by Memorial Day, if not before, and so that we can get that communication out there then too.
Yeah, it wouldn't be hard for us to come back with a couple other ideas, especially talking about like the progressive discipline sort of thing. We can bring that back real quick. if
So
you
would that
want-
be on the action component where it says the action of the common council, either granting, renewing,
Yep.
refusing, so that we would add that to make that more of a progression?
Yep, we would look at
Okay.
some options to do that there, so, yeah, that's not a problem. If the council wants to put it on hold, we can, basically just table it and bring it back, probably next meeting, we'd be ready for it, if not next one, by the one after that, for sure.
Well, I do think it's good that we discuss it. I appreciate that you do a lot of research, Aaron, about it and work with our city attorney. But I think it is helpful for us to discuss it and for the public to hear us discussing it and, get input, understand it. I'm not sure, and of course, you probably don't have the code in front of you right now, Nick, but do you think that our current ordinance does spell out that the complainant must be present.
It does not currently.
Doesn't
No,
spell it out.
it does
So
not.
this will spell out that you must come, and if you don't, there's a penalty.
Correct.
And of course, we don't want frivolous complaints.
Right.
But the fact that they do have to sign and certify, or whatever the word is, hopefully that's taking away a frivolous nature. of
Yeah,
the
and
complaint.
I'm not even so concerned about that, because I don't think the general rule is that people file frivolous complaints. What I'm more concerned, and what I think we really want to address, there were some significant allegations the last time around. And you can certainly file an affidavit and sign your name to it, attesting that it's the truth. But most of the time, you need more information to understand what's happening. So we want to be thoughtful about the complaint process, not to just receive an affidavit with materials, but to actually, promote and encourage people coming to the council to explain what's actually happening. Because at the end of the process, you have to make really a policy determination as to what you want to do with the complaint and what you want to do with that particular application. And it's really important. And so giving the council the best information and the most complete information is really the priority that we're trying to promote here as a result of wanting complainants to appear before the council when a complaint is filed.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, so the motion withdrawn? Mm-hmm. Second withdrawn? And we're just going to let this ride with you?
Yeah, if the direction from the council is that we go back and take a look at the complaint process and the options available to the council for action on complaints, we will take that back and we'll return with additional recommendations for your consideration.
Okay.
So,
Okay, thank you.
understanding that this is a priority and that it needs to come back within the next 2 meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, everybody good? Discussion on using comprehensive plan for council decision-making.
Well, please allow me a few moments to provide the background for the request to review our comprehensive plan. This request relates to our discussion about considering reinstating the Diversity Committee. Following the public hearing regarding the Diversity Committee, the primary concern from some of the council members was that developing and implementing a diversity committee was not the proper role of government. The recommendation that evening was to table the discussion and to rework the proposed committee. During the process of reworking the proposal, a few things were learned. Several communities in our state, in the state of Wisconsin, communities of varying sizes, were identified that do believe it is the role of government and have incorporated diversity initiatives into their government function. Also, several grant opportunities were identified that could help support a diversity initiative. Finally, government's role in such matters within both the federal and state constitution, our local ordinances, and in our 2040 comprehensive plan were identified as well. So that brings me to our 2040 comprehensive plan. This plan involved a rigorous process with city residents, elected officials, the Plan Commission, city staff, and professional experts. The process for the comprehensive plan cost our taxpayers roughly $150,000. And then when we add in staff time, it's probably fair to say that it's close to $200,000 of taxpayer dollars that funded the comprehensive plan. According to our state, a comprehensive plan is a local government's guide to a community's physical, social, and economic development. In 2022, this body passed the Hudson 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Within this document, there's 7 principles and priorities that are intended to guide our decision-making as it relates to local policies. Before we can adequately address the Diversity Committee, a revisit of the principles and priorities found in our plan will be helpful in guiding our path forward. Therefore, I move that at our next 7 council meetings, we will review discuss and determine one principle/priority per meeting, and how each of the 7 planning principles will be used to guide our local policies.
So, I guess I would turn to you on this, Nick. Can we, there was no action specified on this agenda item?
What's listed, you have the topic listed on the agenda, so you can take action if you would like. However, as it's listed on the agenda, it's just listed as discussion at this point. So, I guess I would, and that's specific to this particular topic. So I would suggest that the council have discussion on this particular topic, and then if there is action desired, that action component be placed on the next agenda for an actual vote, only because this is listed just for discussion purposes, and not for approval or action or anything else on this particular item.
Okay.
And that's fine if we want to go on that route. I did reach out to our city administrator because I noticed that on the agenda, and he had thought it'd be fine to bring forward a motion. But
And I'm not, you have noticed it. Obviously, this is a public meeting. You have noticed it for discussion purposes. If there is an action direction that you want to take as a result of the discussion, I don't think the language specifically precludes taking action. Certainly the public has noticed that you're going to discuss this particular topic. So if you decide to take action consistent with Aaron's recommendation, I don't have a strong objection to
I would
that.
point of order that I don't believe we have been very cautionary in our past history before you've been involved as well. We don't take any action on nothing that says we are not taking action on it. You will look at other agenda items and it says discussion and action. This does not, and we need to remain consistent at that. So I would call that motion out of order along with your backup to it, if that's even possible.
No, and my only point, and thank you for that clarification, how you handle agenda items is largely policy.
Yep.
And so the law says that you simply have to provide notice to reasonable notice to the public so that they can know and understand what's going to be discussed on an agenda. There are many, many communities that don't use the terms discussion or action. They just put a topic and the public is left to kind of guess. You have a policy perspective on using terms like discussion and possible action. And so if that is the policy direction and for consistency, the council wants to continue in that direction where there's just a discussion listing and you find it not appropriate to vote on a particular action, you're certainly welcome to take that policy approach to your agenda items.
in the interest of collegial relationships and being consistent, I am willing to remove my motion and add it on for our next agenda with possible action based on our discussion that we have tonight then.
Well, thank you. It just, to me, it's consistent. See, and we've been doing this a long time, and I just don't want to deviate from that because it's good policy, I think, to name what we're doing when we are going to do it. Because maybe somebody would have had some thought before we took formal action on it.
All right, I think we're good.
Okay, so let's have the discussion.
Yep.
I agree with Sarah. Our comprehensive plan is an important document, and that it would be a good idea to go over it and see how it's shaping our policies and our decisions.
I voted for the comprehensive plan. I do have a thing that's stuck in my head that it's a low sample size, not a whole lot of participation. I agree with most everything in there. But just because it's kind of a smaller sample size, I just, to structurally name 7 principles, what are you trying to get at, I guess, is my question.
Well, a few points, if I could. I want us to remember that all of us here were elected by a small sample size too, and that elected officials, city staff, all weighed in on this. And there were, several times when there were 300, 400 people that that were part of this. So this was, from a perspective like that, it was definitely a bigger sample size than we have in other times. And at any given moment, throughout the entire process, as an elected official, things could have been pulled back and said, I'm not comfortable with that. My point is, our citizens gave us feedback. There's 7 core principles that they have asked us to use as we guide our policies. And I am asking that we look at each one of those policies, say, where are we at as a council? I recognize, too, that there's 3 new council members here that weren't part of this process. And where do we stand as a body on these principles that they have given us, and how will we use those to guide the decisions that we make?
Okay. I was here actually for the last time we did a comprehensive policy, and these kind of issues didn't come up. So it's uncharted waters for us, and is it those 7 principles? I wish we had them in front of us.
I have them in
Unless
front of me.
somebody could read them.
Yeah, I've got them here if you want, yeah. So the first principle is strong and authentic small-town charm. The second is equitable and inclusive. The third is sustainably meet housing demands. The fourth is environmentally resilient. The fifth is leveraging existing assets. 6 is connected, safe, and accessible places. And the 7th is economically diverse and vibrant. And then, of course, under each, there's a short little paragraph about kind of what that sort of means.
So the question I have is, are we addressing social issues? Are we actually addressing the comprehensive plan of the development of the business and the taxing identity of the city of Hudson?
Well, I guess the point that I would like to make is, we have this comprehensive plan. We use taxpayer dollars to fund it. This is the direction we're supposed to be using as a guide. Are we going to use this? I think our community deserves to know if we're going to use this, or was this simply just a check in the box? Let's have a comprehensive plan, and then let's, as the elected officials, decide what we want to do despite this direction from our citizens.
Do you know how many times the last comprehensive plan has been deviated from? And it was good, and I'm sure there was probably some bad decisions that were made too. It's just part of the process. I think just including hot topics or social issues into the conversation, I think we're losing our point of governing a city, infrastructure-wise and economic vitality.
I hear what you're saying, although according to our state, they say a comprehensive plan is a local government's guide to a community's physical, social, and economic development.
Yep.
So there's a different
I'm
perspective.
not arguing the fact we have a comprehensive plan. I'm not arguing at all, but
I understand, we're just having a conversation.
but to me, we're muddying what the comprehensive plan is literally, I think, to do. And jump in there,
I just have a question, because I don't disagree with that at all. But my question would be, have we not been following these guidelines? Are there instances where you think that we haven't been following these principles? Even though, I mean, when an issue comes up, we haven't said, let's take a look at each one of these 7 principles and make sure it's in alignment with whatever our topic is that evening, is in alignment with those 7 principles. But is there something that we have failed to do, or we have done in that's contrary to those 7 principles?
I think it's a good baseline discussion for us to reach some consensus on where we stand as a governing body. I think on any one of these 7 principles, it could come up where we maybe aren't. We have some big things coming up specifically as it relates to a strong small-town charm. We have some development that's coming. Maybe it would be, not maybe, I think it would be helpful to have this discussion in advance. We know we've had some discussion about, and we have differing perspectives about the diversity committee, and it's on this as a list of an area priority. If we aren't going to honor or affirm or work to make policies that are reflective of what our community has asked us, then I think we should amend it, so our citizens know that we don't have consensus on this. We see their feedback, and we're gonna go in a different direction because we think our direction's better.
So clearly with the development that we have in front of us, and has been in front of us for some time now, to me, that's been at the top of the discussion all the time. It's always there, is the small town charm and feel of Hudson. It comes up every time we discuss development. It's always there. So I just, while I think it's always good to go back, you're right. I mean, we spent the money on this. It was something that's mandated. We spent a lot of time, effort, tried to get a lot of participation, did everything that we could to get participation from our citizenry. But at this point, I just don't see where we have failed to implement any of those. And like I said, we haven't brought them up specifically one by one, but I think about the discussions that we've had as some of these issues, and those principles have been coming up in every one of those discussions. In addition, we're not all going to agree on what small town, why am I having a hard time saying that? Small town charm and feel is. We're not all going to agree on what that means. What it means to a resident that's been here for the past, that was born and raised here, have raised their kids, grandkids here, their perception of small town appeal and charm might be completely different than somebody that filled that questionnaire out that just recently moved here.
Mr. Mayor, could I just ask you, I know sometimes people
I'm
can't
sorry.
hear your comments. Sorry, thank you.
You're going to make me repeat all that?
No, just maybe going forward.
Go to that small town charm thing.
Yeah.
Say it 3 times.
Yeah.
I think it would be useful to hear everybody's opinion on this so that we know where everybody's coming from on each of these principles.
I guess if I'm going to apply the principle, I need to apply it to something, though. I mean, if we're just going to talk about whether we agree or disagree or like or I mean, I think depending on the specific issue, whether it's for a building or for another project, those 7 components may all apply, or some more than others. This to me sounds like we're going to talk about whether we're going to use them, and I think if they're in our comprehensive plan, I think by the nature that they're in there, we ought to be using them when we're making our decisions, and I do feel like they do come up when we're having discussions. Maybe not bullet pointed that according to, number 1, it says this. I don't know if we're looking to just decide if we agree or disagree with them, or we have to commit of how we plan to use them.
And I guess I'll go with, when I first took the seat, first thing I did was read that thing cover to cover. I actually read it before, but now I actually had a reason to read it, right? And dive into it. To me, I saw that like a tool in the toolbox, that when we have a development or we have, whether it be a social thing or a building, we individually all get 1 vote, and we get to use that, whether we talk to the neighbor, whether we read it in this guide, and then we come here and vote, and we don't always vote the same. But I don't think we can go to the next level and say we need to discuss and define exactly what this says, and that's going to be otherwise, why are we sitting here? We all might disagree, and like you said, we could read the same sentence and have 6 different opinions of what that means. So while it is a guide or a plan, I don't think it's like a recipe that we follow to the T. I can't go past the idea that it's a guide that not a ton of people, but some people took a lot of time to share with us what they thought of and what they wanted. We are kind of battling the idea of this. I can't take the idea that, from what I've read in there, that it takes the social issues of the day and says that the people mandate that we need to have a DEI committee through this city. I can't make that jump. Some people wanted, wanted to work with that, but I didn't see that as a mandate of the city. I can't use this, I use this as a guide, I guess, rather than direction that we all have to be in lockstep with.
I guess my comments about the specific principles is a lot of the wording seems rather subjective to me. Could mean different things to different people, as you mentioned, Mike. I feel that it's aspirational statements that, that people have expressed that we'd like to do or keep an eye on certain things. I definitely, the word you just used, Mike, when you said mandate, I don't see it as a mandate either. I do see it as these are important issues that have been raised and people in the community are concerned about them. Sustainably meeting housing demands, for example, principle number 3. Well, what does sustainably mean? That we always keep up and we have plenty of housing, or that we build housing to the highest level of green standards, eco standards? I don't know for sure what that phrase means. It seems to be more about supplying a range of housing options for different age and economic groups. But again, someone could look at those words differently. And so I think they are somewhat subjective, kind of affective, or bringing an emotional component to it, which I think is a good balance in the comprehensive plan, because a lot of the comprehensive plan is about, guidelines and boundaries where this developmental district changes into another one. And so this does bring a little bit more of the affective flavor to the whole plan, which I know there was lots of input. At least there were many comments. You can see all the comments listed in the plan of different ideas that people had, and some of them are, well, unique. Maybe there's a one-of-a-kind comment, but I think they just tried to pull where those comments tended to overlap together and to choose these areas. But again, I guess I'm not objecting to discussing them further, but I don't know that it's necessarily, again, the word mandate, that we're to do something specific with them. For example, Principle 5, leveraging existing assets. That could mean a lot of things. So again, I think they're kind of affective summary statements and useful, and it is good to look at them. But I don't necessarily see that it's going to dictate action that we're failing to take and we should start taking. But it's good to keep them in mind. So, thank you.
And I certainly don't object to discussion. Well, that's not what I was saying, but it's there.
So clearly, you had something in mind for a motion tonight, and you've got information, presumably now, to work with and come back with a motion for the next meeting. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We good? Okay. I think that's it before we go into closed session, right? There's one thing I would like to do tonight, however. We have some Boy Scouts with us here tonight, and I wanted to recognize them. It's great to have you here. I understand you guys are working on your merit badges, so this must be government? Civics? Okay, excellent. Well, hopefully you learned some things here tonight. Hopefully you may find this as an awakening where you might want to run for office sometime. We definitely need leaders, young people that are interested in serving their communities, which is something that you guys have already decided to do. And we appreciate and applaud what you do, as well as the people that are here that work with you. Your not exactly your titles. Sure of your titles there, Holly. What? You know what, Holly? Why don't you come on up if you would? Introduce yourselves and introduce the scouts that are here with you.
The mayor will give you a badge.
That's right, yeah. Thank you. I am Holly Trumbull. I'm an assistant scoutmaster with Troop 140, and we are out of Bethel Lutheran. And we have Sam Platson, Jack Platson, and Benny Ellingson, as well as Dave Minke, who is also actually our commissioner, right? District commissioner.
Yes, I'm a chartered organization rep, so I'm the liaison to the troops and the council.
Yep.
It's great. It's always a pleasure to have you guys in here. Come back anytime, come back with more scouts. Bring them on in, and I'd also like to add, it's been a pleasure working with the Eagle Scouts. I've had an opportunity to be at the ceremonies. One of the perks of being mayor here, be at some of those ceremonies, and I've always enjoyed that. So thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute, section 19.85, sub 1, sub G, for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel concerning strategy to be adopted by the council with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved.
Move to go into closed session.
Second.
I got a motion and second to go into closed session. Roll call? Oh, jeez. You thought
Keep forgetting about
you
these
were walking
roll
away already.
I know, I was already like, oh, sorry. Councilmember Hall,
Yes.
Ruck,
Yes.
Kennedy.
Yes.
Morissette.
Yes.
Wakefield.
Yes.
And Knutson, sorry.
Yes.
Motion's approved. We are now in closed session. We'll step across the hall for that. I don't know if... All right, we're back in open session. We have a motion.
I move to adopt Resolution 5-23.
Second.
Got a motion second to adopt. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. I don't have anything. Anybody?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.